when I met him was December 1996 in Rio de Janeiro, my hometown. But I was not living then in Rio. I was living in Europe. As a matter of fact, I had been living in Europe for 15 years, 13, 14 years. And I had no plan whatsoever, of returning to Brazil, return to live in Brazil, actually. As a matter of fact, I was planning to move to the States. I had a business in Europe. I had studied in Europe. I spent a long time there. But on this month, December 1996, I was visiting my hometown, my family in Rio for Christmas. I had also business in Brazil. And my brother was in Rio as well. And he had two friends that invited him for the presentation of this person, this supposed contactee called Urandir Olivera. And I never heard about him. And since I was 13 years old, I was very much interested in the UFO subject, extraterrestrials, spaceships, I love sci-fi movies. And at that age, I met a very interesting person, a lady in Rio called Irene Granke. She was the #1 UFO researcher in Brazil, and she was known everywhere. She had a worldwide reputation. And I sort of became her adopted grandson, because I was a young boy, interested in the subject, and started participating in her workshops. And I joined her association, and I spent many years with her. I learned a great deal of things. And before I left to Europe to study, well, as a matter of fact, I went to high school in Vermont.
Oh, wow, Vermont.
After that, I went to Europe for university, and I became a representative of Mrs. Irene Granke's association, which I co-founded at the time. It was called CISNE, Center for the Investigation on the Nature of Extraterrestrials. And I got to know many people in Europe because of her. She knew a lot of people, a lot of important researchers. So I thought I had a pretty good idea of the UFO phenomena, at least I thought so. And my brother knew about this passion of mine. And when I was in Rio, he invited me, "Oh, bro, let's go there. There's this guy, he's going to talk about his contact with 49 ET races, This is, your cup of tea, come and let's see what this guy has to talk, what he's going to talk about." And we went to his presentation. It was his first presentation. Our president, Urandir Olivera, is not from Rio. He's from the countryside of São Paulo, but he had just moved to Rio to start, talking about the 49 races. And this was his very first presentation. We were like 20 persons in this house in Rio. And when I got there, I was like very curious because never heard about him. And I heard about his presentation through my brother. And then, I went there, I watched, listened, and was impressed and amazed. And at the same time, it was like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, because everything he said, I never heard of, the content, the information, everything was completely different than anything I have ever heard before. And I met many world-class, researchers through Mrs. Irene Granke, participated in many international conferences, with her, helping her, of course. And I thought, my God, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But after his 2-hour presentation, he said, "Okay, now I'm going to show you guys what's all about." And then I was puzzled. I was like, what is he going to show? And then all of a sudden, a ball of light came, like sprouted out of the ceiling and started flying around us. I was like, wow. What the hell is this? And then after the conference, I was like, what was that? And he said, this is one of the 49 races probes so that you guys see what I'm talking about. I was amazed. I was like,
Oh my
wow,
God.
what is this? And then he said, I just moved to Rio. Next week, I'm going to have a small meeting in a small office I rented in Copacabana. If you would like to attend this meeting, you will be very welcome. Then I agreed. I said, okay. And then the following week, I went there with my family, my parents, my brother, my brother's ex-wife, my uncles who were lucky, all of my family there. They were very curious. You know, what?
Had to take everybody.
Yes. Just my dogs didn't go.
Yeah, right.
And then when we got there, we were like, he had this small office space in Copacabana, right in the middle of Copacabana. And then he came and said, okay, guys, I'm going to do an activation with you guys. And I was like, an activation? What is this? And then we were there expecting, you know, I don't know, the normal stuff, you know, you come and I don't know, you do some, you know, touch something. I don't know, activation. What is this? Something like Reiki, you know, you put your hand. I don't know. But when he entered the room, we were all like, wow, because he was illuminated, fully illuminated. His body was fully, you know, covered by this strange light. It looked like a neon light. And then he approached us and he said, okay, now I'm going to activate us. And then he started touching our bodies. And when he touched our bodies, you know, his hand fully lit by this crazy neon light. You know, it's really strange, something really odd. Never seen that in my life. And then when he touched us, the light would move around our body, you know. And we were like, come on, this can be, you know. And I was really surprised, really, really surprised. And then he approached me and then he said, Felipe, you have an implant in the back of your neck. And then I thought to myself, this guy understood that I like the subject. Now he's going to come with that, you know, with that story of, oh, you received an implant and I have to work on your... I was thinking, you know, in my skeptical mind, you know, it's like, he's going to come up with this sort of conversation. And then, as a matter of fact, he did. He said, you have this implant in the back of your neck. It's interesting that we start activating it. It has a purpose, you know. I'm going to just turn it on and you might feel discomfort. You might, you know, sort of swallow, you know, a little bit. And then he touched the back of my neck, but slightly, you know, he just slightly touched the back of my head. I felt an intense pain, as if someone came with a sledgehammer, you know, and hammered me here in the back of my neck. It was crazy. I was like, oh my God. And it swelled, you know. I had like a little hump in the back of my neck for 3 days. I had to put ice on it. I was like, what the hell is this? This is physical. This is on my mind. This is really odd. This guy, all illuminated, said, what's going on? What is this? And he said, come in a couple of days and I start working on you. So you see. And then I returned 2 days after. I was really puzzled. I was like, my God, this is crazy. This is really crazy. Very skeptical about all this because at that time I already had a few years of experience with this type of subject. And I returned, you know, I was more curious than, you know, anything. And then when I returned, he said, okay, now I'm going to activate this implant so that you see what I'm talking about. And then he worked on me for a few hours, you know, and after a few hours working on me with his bare hands,
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, what is this? You know, I was feeling all these crazy things in my body. And then he said, sit down. And then I sat down. And then he said, now I'm going to turn it on. And I was like, okay. And then he put both of his hands on top of mine. And then he said, I'm going to activate it now. And then I felt a little electric, thing here in my forehead. And then all of a sudden, I started looking at him, and I used to see a light around him, appear like a mist, a colored mist, appearing, becoming brighter, and and then after a few minutes, maybe I don't even remember the time, I started seeing balls of light floating around, and then I saw this guy behind him. It looked like a hologram, huge guy. And I was like, what the hell is happening, Urandir? And then he said, the implant that you have in the back of your head, here in my neck, in the back of my neck, was put on you when you were 5 years old by one of the races of the 49. The purpose of this implant is to amplify, to accelerate, and to synchronize your brain activity. And when that happens, what we call paranormal abilities begin to manifest. So, since you're a very skeptical guy and you have a background in this subject and you're very suspicious, I decided to show you by activating your implant, turning it on so that you see with your own eyes what I'm talking about. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't drink anything, I didn't smoke anything, this is real, And then he said, now I'm going to turn it off. And then he touched my hands again. I felt the same electric shock here, my forehead, and everything disappeared. And then I said, what happened? And he said, I had to turn off your implant, okay? And I said, why did you have to do it? Because he said, you would go crazy without the proper training in order to harness this technology. And at this time, I did that only for the purpose only of you seeing it with your own eyes, and to verify that what I'm talking about is not BS, it's real. And then he said, if you'd like, I could work on you, train you, and help you to reach a level where you can talk with these people, with these guys, like I do. But you cannot be far from Brazil more than 90 days. Otherwise, your vibrational frequency would oscillate in a way that we would waste time, to prepare you. When he said that, I said, no problem. I realized immediately what my life purpose was. Really, was like, oh my God, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. The real thing, And that's what I did. I went back to Europe. I had my house, my business, everything there. I shut everything off. I said to my partners, goodbye. I left with a suitcase only and returned to Rio. And then started training with him. Made several trips to our headquarters now, which is the Dakila farm, Ziggurats and Havilon here, as we call it. And, it's a long story. It's been 25 years and it's amazing,